You are now entering the horror sanctum.
Hello and welcome back to the Horror Sanctum podcast. I'm Jay with Kellen and TJ. And this week we're joined by director, actor, producer, writer, editor, the multifaceted Mr. Mike Mendez. Mike, welcome to the
Hello.
show, and thank you so much for taking some time with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So you've directed several flicks. You've had small parts in other roles. You've directed Don't Kill It, Big Ass Spider, The Grave Dancers, The Convent, and most recently you directed the wraparound segment on one of my favorite anthology flicks, Satanic Hispanics. So
All right.
I want to start there with the brightest and newest.
Okay.
First off, you directed the Traveler segment, which starred Efren Ramirez from Napoleon Dynamite fame. I just want to say he knocked it out of the park. I don't see him a lot in things anymore, and he deserves more work because he was fantastic in that.
Yeah, he was great. Yeah, no, he really a nice different, something very different for him. And I think he really nailed it. So
that was Pedro. I was trying to put my finger on where I recognized him from.
That's what the internet's for,
perfect.
TJ.
That's great.
Guess we know who didn't
That's
vote for
always
Pedro.
good. He's like a chameleon, you know. It's like you don't recognize him as that's good. That's a good thing. You forget that he was Pedro. That's a wonderful thing. So
he didn't have the mustache.
Yeah,
I've been tracking Satanic Hispanics for a long time, so when it finally came out, I was excited. I'm also a huge fan of the co-directors, Gigi Salguero. I just want to be friends with her. Like, she's amazing.
yeah, she's awesome.
And Ragna, who just did one of my favorite films of last year, When Evil Lurks.
Hell yeah.
Which just, fantastic. Eduardo Sanchez of Blair Witch fame, and of course Alejandro. But I'm curious how this film came to be. Was it anyone in particular their idea, or was it just a collaboration? Like, how did y'all sit down and say, let's make this movie?
So I had done another anthology a few years back called Tales of Halloween with Epic Pictures, and that was kind of just like local LA horror filmmakers, and that was like repping the LA scene. And there's so many anthologies that, you know, I really felt like you need a different personality, a different point of view. I love anthologies. I want more anthologies, but between the VHSs, the mortuary collections, the ABCs of Death, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, there's a fair amount of them. And so you kind of want to stand out. So Epic was very kind and said, you know, hey, you know, if you have another idea for an anthology, providing it's something kind of like, you know, cool and different, you know, we would be interested. So I was really racking my brain on what to do. And at one time it was, you know, during the pandemic, I wanted to do a kind of follow up to Tales of Halloween called Tales of Quarantine, but it was just, you know, not enough time to put it together, like to come out for the Halloween of quarantine. So we had more time. And then one day, you know, I was talking with Alejandro, and he was just like, when the fuck are we making Satanic Hispanics, the Latino horror anthology? You know, he was kidding, but it kind of like made all the sense in the world. He's like, I was like, when the fuck are we making Satanic Hispanics, the Latino horror anthology? It was like, that was kind of perfect. I was like, all right, well, that was I haven't seen that. That was different. And there's enough indie Latino filmmakers that I'm genuinely a fan of that we have contact to, that I felt we could reach out to everybody and see if people would be interested. And thankfully Epic was quick to say, yeah, totally, we'd be down. And so once it was me and Alejandro, I think then we asked Ed Sanchez, I asked Gigi, and then we were just, Alejandro and I just, I guess, lucky us, good taste, just were big fans of Demian Rugna and Terrified before When Evil Lurks we'd even seen it. We actually didn't even see it till after Satanic Hispanics was done. And yeah, just, you know, we just lucked out because we didn't think he was shooting When Evil Lurks, and he's like, dude, I don't have the time to do this. And we were like, yeah, you can totally fit it in. Absolutely, you should do this. Basically what he did was he extended the shoot of When Evil Lurks by 4 days, and the 4 days to shoot the Satanic Hispanics thing. So technically it's a lot. It's the same crew. It's the same, you know, kind of vibe. It's even one of the same actors from When Evil Lurks. So it is a little weird addendum to that movie, I guess, you know, so.
What did you personally think of When Evil Lurks?
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was awesome. Yeah, I felt like when we watched, I mean, my genuine feeling was just like, man, we picked the right guy. Like we're just like, we did good on this. Yeah, because yeah, no, he just knocked it out of the park. I think it was one of the best horror movies of last year, I would say. You know,
It was I thought the creepiest, scariest movie of last year for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally. So no, dude, talented. So yeah, very, very happy to work with him. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's look at Masters of Horror, not the television series that had numerous directors, but you did a documentary, which you
yes,
interviewed
yeah,
numerous.
rarely referenced.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it should be. You
yeah, no one ever
interviewed
talks
numerous
about
horror
that. So
legends. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
When you were shooting this, because the lineup on the film is nuts. Did you get starstruck by
Yeah.
anyone in particular? Like, was there just someone you're
All
like,
of
I
them, bro.
cannot
It's
fucking
great.
wait?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it was the whole thing was a weird experience, and it all feels like a fever dream, and just like a weird that we even got to do it. But in the year 2000, that's how far back it goes. There was a DVD called the company was called Flix Mix, and there was a disc called oh god called Boogeymen. I don't know if you remember. You get
Yes.
it up
Yeah, the killer
video.
cut.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And it was clips from like Nightmare on Elm Street, and it was clips from Friday the 13th. It was just a collection of clips or whatever. And it was like this weird thing that Universal was doing with some of their library to make this DVD. And so they made a sequel, or they wanted to make a sequel called Masters of the Macabre originally. And luckily I got hired, and I just and basically it was just supposed to be clips from some of the best filmmakers, much like Boogeyman was. But because I was working for Universal, and honestly, this is so funny. It's a different time. You can't do this now. So I had all this fax Universal letterhead, and I realized that like, wow, if I fax, which you know who faxes now, but back then you could fax people. I'm like, you know, if I fax anybody, they'll take it seriously because it's on Universal letterhead. And so I'm like, this is just supposed to be a collection of clips, and it's supposed to be a DVD. But I, as a DVD fan, was like, well, if I had a DVD called Masters of the Macabre and it had clips of John Carpenter and Wes Craven, I'd want to hear from these guys. And so I sold them on the idea of like, hey, you know, as an extra bonus, can I, you know, hire a crew and go interview these people as bonuses? And they're like, sure, whatever, great. They didn't care. They were just like, yeah, whatever. It was a small amount of money but for Universal standards that I was asking for. So it was like, yeah, do whatever. So basically, I took that little ledger of fax paper and emailed all my heroes. I mean, not emailed, sorry, faxed. Faxed Wes Craven, faxed John Carpenter, and kind of said, hi, I'm with Universal Pictures, and we're doing this thing called Masters of the Macabre. And everyone said yes, because they thought it was a legit thing, which it sort of was, but it sort of wasn't. So, you know, I was 22 or something like that. I was a kid, maybe a little older, maybe I was 25 or something like that. But like, you know, I was just a kid doing this, just wanting to meet my heroes. And then at some point, like Boogeyman, and they had an action one. I forgot what that one was called, but they didn't really do that well, and so the project got scrapped. But because I had shot all this stuff, all this interview, and when we did a thorough, nice job, we sold them on like, hey, well, we can kind of like cut this together into a documentary. And they're like, sure, how much more would that cost? And I gave them a number, and you know, I was like, well, fuck it, I've come this far. Why don't we get Bruce Campbell? It was another hero of mine, and you know, we got Bruce Campbell to host it, and it premiered on Showtime, and then I think it went to Sci-Fi Channel, and now it's out of print. Now you can't find it. Now the only place you can find it is YouTube, which whatever. I mean, watch it on YouTube. It's there. It's free. It's you know, but sadly, you know, you only have the clips for so long that you can use them for. So I think the whole thing's kind of gotten out of print. I don't even think Universal knows they owned it at one point. Yeah, so it's kind of a lost thing, but I love it. And yes, that what a joy to sit down with John Carpenter and George Romero and Wes Craven and Guillermo del Toro and who else? Stuart Gordon and Toby Hooper. And we didn't get to sit down with Dario Argento. We sent a crew to interview him, but yeah, what a delight, and still a highlight of my life. So that's great.
Did you get Bruce Campbell the same way you got everybody else with the letterhead and the faxing? Or?
Well, but by that point, we had shot the stuff and we were already greenlit to like make the special. So I actually went legitimately through his agent and offered him a number, and he came out. We had to do it either, we were shooting it on the Universal lot, and we had to do it either before Universal opened or after it closed. Now, of course, I'm a night owl and 25, so of course I'm going, yeah, let's start at 5 p.m. And he's like, nah. We're starting at, what time do they open? Like 3 a.m. We're starting at 3 a.m. So yes, Bruce brought us out at 3 a.m. to shoot that. So, but he was great. He was wonderful, and he did the job, and yeah, it was a joy to work with him. So
Yeah, Kellen and I have met him a couple times, and he's always fantastic. Just out of curiosity, when you started this project, who was the first name on your facts sheet on that one? Who was like, this is where I want to start?
You're bringing me back a long time, so let me think. I would think, because I had to go on who I kind of had some connection to, and I was friends with Adam Girash and Jace Anderson. I think this is way before, because yeah, I think it was before, because they were doing Toolbox Murder, so that's how I knew Toby. But yeah, I think I forget. Somehow I got Toby's fax number and John Carpenter's. I think I started there, and it was kind of like if I get enough yeses from them, I had enough nerve to fax Wes Craven. So, and then after that, once you got Wes Craven and John Carpenter and Toby Hooper, you're punch drunk with power. You're just like, yeah, we'll get everybody. And we did for the most part. I think the only person who said no was Sam Raimi, because he doesn't like to see himself on camera. He was like, I don't know. We got it on nice Spider-Man letterhead. It was very cool. So
That's awesome.
anyway, so,
Yeah, like I said, that lineup is just insane. Like, I fax
yeah,
every day. I work at a doctor's office, so I use the fax machine every day. Still.
Oh,
So
okay,
I'll
all
try
right.
that.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
hey, John Carpenter, you want to come on our podcast sometime on some letterhead?
Totally. Exactly.
So
it worked, or it worked.
aside from that film, I would probably say Dolph Lundgren is maybe the biggest star you've worked with and directed.
Probably, yeah.
He was in Don't Kill It. I was just curious, did that present any challenges for you dealing with someone of his level as opposed to these other films where he did, were mostly like Big Ass Spider was mostly TV people? So having Dolph Lundgren,
Right.
did you have to change the way you did anything at all?
No, but you are aware that you have an 800-pound gorilla and I mean that in the best way possible. He's the best kind of 800-pound gorilla. But that's the thing with any 800-pound gorilla, the difference is what side he's on. So if the 800-pound gorilla is against you, that is not good. But if the 800-pound gorilla is in your corner, that's great. And so you just have to kind of win him over, which he definitely tested me and kind of like pushed me in seeing what I was made of. And I hear he can be very difficult if he's not comfortable, and if he doesn't have trust with where he's at. But luckily on the first day, I think I won him over, and we were working together. That was kind of the nice thing. There was definitely like we're both on board on this. He's taking it very seriously, and he really did. It was. I mean, he's a brilliant mind. I mean, as we know, he's a chemistry. Has a doctorate in chemistry and went to MIT and stuff like that, and has like a 160 IQ. So he really got to push it to the limit, because part of the fun of it there's these ridiculous monologues, and he also decided to do it in a southern accent for some reason, which that was his call, and that was like all right, I don't know about this, but what are you gonna say to Dolph Lundgren?
What are you gonna do? Tell him no? Like, I don't think so, Dolph.
I think I did tell him no, but I think he told me yes. So.
It was an odd choice. I thought it's a great film too. Like,
yeah, my only regret is that I didn't write, and there was a part I meant to do it. I just didn't reference it. I think in movies, as long as a character references, so where is that accent from? I think all is forgiven. And I really should have done that. That's my only regret. But anyway, Dolph was very committed, and they had to memorize these incredibly long monologues, often while doing action. And so that was part of the fun and part of the challenge was to do these big monologues in this accent, often while doing these physical scenes. And I think he had a great time. I think he really enjoyed the challenge. So yeah, it was great.
It's on Tubi, I believe. You haven't seen Don't Kill It. It's fantastic. It's one of those movies where I see it, and I'll be honest, if I see Dolph Lundgren on the poster, I don't necessarily run to that film.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I read
yeah.
about it, and of course, having you on the show, and I was looking, I'd seen several of your films already, just not realizing it, but it was a very good. I watched it this week. So I got one more
sweet.
quick
All right.
question, and then we'll move over to TJ. So another film you have that I don't think a lot of people know about, but they should, is your directorial debut from '96, Killers, which you also co-wrote. I love this movie. I saw it years ago. I just watched it again this week. It's nuts. It's a ton of fun. Tell us where
It is
this
nuts.
idea. What's that?
It is nuts. Yeah. I mean, I just watched
absolutely
it.
nuts. And like,
I watched
it's one of those
recently with
movies when you watch it, you go in with, zero expectations and you're like, oh shit. And like, you want to tell your friends to go watch this movie. So tell us how that idea for the film came about and what it was like getting behind the camera for the first time.
Sure. I was just saying, I just did a commentary because there's like a new 4K that's coming out of it, and I hadn't seen it in a long time, and it really just sat with me. I'm like, this movie's so fucking weird. Just like, I don't think I can make it now. It just is just the weird collaboration of what it was, which was, two 22-year-old kids. I'll try to make the long story shortest as I can. The producer, actor, writer, Dave Larson, I met him because I was like a PA makeup assistant on his first attempt at an indie film, and it didn't quite come together. He couldn't quite finish it, but he had all the stack of back when we shot on film of short ends, which is like pieces of film that like maybe instead of like a 10-minute roll, you'd have maybe 4 minutes on that roll, but you could still use it. And so he was like, yeah, we have enough short ends, we can make another movie. And so I was like, oh my God, yeah, I would, I'm a filmmaker, I would really love to do that. And so I guess what we kind of agreed on at the time, because we liked different things. He liked Mickey Rourke movies. That was his thing, particularly The Desperate Hours. And I liked B horror movies. And so this is some kind of weird hybrid of like a Mickey Rourke, Desperate Hours action movie and The Hills Have Eyes or some shit like that. I don't know, but and so it is just a very weird collaboration that I don't think can be quite recreated because he was trying to do his thing, I was trying to do my thing. I don't know that it always meshes, but more so, I think the other reason that it's very strange is that it's like we made it for like $100,000 back then when we shot on film, which was more expensive to make that, back then. And so, it's just this crazy low budget, super ambitious, weird quasi action, quasi thriller, quasi horror movie, quasi cult movie that's very bloody and very vulgar. And I think it's fun. And honestly, I think it's just one of those things that it kind of all worked out in a weird way that I just think that it's such a strange movie. It kind of speaks to people and it kind of like, resonates with folks. So I'm super thankful for it. It started my career. And I'm very thankful that, that there's a new version of it coming out and that it still exists, that you can find it on Amazon or whatever. It's fairly easy to find, and that new versions are still getting printed is amazing because again, it's like to us it just kind of was a glorified student film, but it is technically a movie. It is out there, so that's great.
Who's putting out the 4K?
Synapse, same that just did the Convent.
Nice, looking forward to that.
Yes.
Quick question, just picking up on the Killers idea. Was there any at all inspiration? Because I think it was around the same time in history by the Mendez brothers.
Sure, absolutely. Oh, 100%. Yeah. Dave was absolutely obsessed. He was ahead of his time, I suppose. It was absolutely obsessed with true crime. So the OJ case, the Menendez, I mean, it definitely was a product of its time, much like Natural Born Killers was. We made it around the same time that is. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of the same themes and a lot of the same kind of
It's
like
almost like the Menendez brothers, loosely inspired, done in the way of natural born killers on a budget.
sort of, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, the Mendez brothers definitely what inspired the James boys because they killed their parents, with shotguns, and I mean that was pretty much exact. And then just the whole vibe of kind of the celebrity culture of killers, with the OJ and stuff like that. I think that certainly added to the flavor of the movie.
Yeah,
It's
almost.
wild. I feel like that premise has been tried. It's been attempted to be replicated several times, and it just doesn't quite hit like that one did.
Oh, nice. All right. Yeah, I'll say this. I think it's because it's one of the earlier ones. I've definitely seen several, films. Actually, I haven't seen, but I know there's a movie called Villains that is from the writers of Don't Kill It. Funny enough, but coincidentally, it's also similar to the Killer's plot. I don't think they've ever seen Killers. I'm not making a comparison, but I think it was a similar thing. I haven't seen it, but I believe it's about some runaway killers that picked the
Yeah.
wrong house.
Yeah, it's got one of the Scars guards in it. It's a
Right,
decent flick
exactly.
too, but I think I would have to go with Killers. between
Right
the
on. So,
So so we were at Scarefest in October, a few months back, and I got to meet Adrienne Barbeau for the first time, which
right on.
lovely lady, and she was just
Absolutely.
telling me about this new release of The Convent, and we were going through for the podcast, just asking different stars, what's a underrated horror film that you think more people need to see? And that was her recommendation. And
Nice.
within
All right.
Yeah, and within a couple weeks, I was seeing a lot of press about the new Blu-ray coming out, and so that got on my radar, and I was like, "How did I miss this? This is such a cool practical special effects, almost like a early 2000s new take on Night of the Demons, but with Adrian
Sure.
Barbeau
Right.
as kind of like Sarah Connor kicking
Yeah. We
demon
we were
nun
definitely
ass."
definitely we were definitely under the radar. I it's it's a different time. We didn't have for one thing, and whatever, just the way it was. We back in those days, which is like 2000, there was kind of the cool internet being Ain't It Cool, and websites like that, Dark Horizons. They either embraced you and pushed you forward and your movie got hyped, or they didn't. And for whatever reason, they did not like the Convent. They were not fans of the Convent.
Really?
And they did not push the film. And so honestly, it means a lot that people even know of the movie now, because it really, you always go into these things with the best of intentions, and it started off great. It got into Sundance, and we thought like, oh shit, this was the year right after Blair Witch. Hopefully maybe it would go in a similar kind of thing, but then it ends up like, no, it's kind of gonna get buried, but just kind of a straight to almost straight to VHS, but I think there was a DVD, by Lionsgate, and then it kind of came out foreign, and you really feel like that's it. That's that's the pinnacle, that Sundance moment, and then it's just gonna kind of fall into obscurity, and you'll never hear about it again. And that's honestly what I expected, and the way a lot of indie films go. And so I feel crazy blessed that over the years, whether it be at conventions, whether it be just walking down the street, whether it be a supermarket or whatever, you hear, hey man, love the Convent. Hey, love the Convent. Or and I would hear that, and I would hear that like it was a movie that people would like kind of like have the DVD and like just share it with friends in college and stuff like that. And they kind of had like a bit of a cult following from the DVD. And then it was essentially out of print for a long time. And I was genuinely concerned that I don't know where the negative is. I don't know where any of the stuff is, that I thought it was going to just fall away into obscurity, and that DVD now the pinnacle was the culty DVD, talk, and when it was in Fangoria and stuff like that, and I was like, okay, maybe that's the pinnacle of it. But thankfully, thanks to both a company called Multicom and Synapse Films, there's two 4K versions of it now. The new Synapse one going back to the original negative and really trying to really restore it and salvage it to the best it can be. And now it's like, oh shit, the movie's still around. Now we made a 20 4 years ago it premiered. And so that's awesome. That means the world, because again, it's like, you make these things and really they're kind of disappointing for a long time, where you feel that like, oh, that didn't really go the way I'd hoped, or I wish, more people would have caught on. But it's nice that years later, hey, I think people have caught on to it. So, and that's great. So.
Yeah, how did you connect with Adrienne Barbeau, and was she always kind of your vision for that character, or did you kind of custom make that for her?
I mean, I think we had a couple of choices. The movie had a little bit of a budget, not a lot. I mean, it was still under $1 million. But we were an indie film, and so we just did a, straight offer to her of like, hey, we'll give you a week for such and such. Um, and I know we bantied about different names. I definitely wanted a genre name, or someone that was kind of like a standout role. So I know we talked about Linda Blair for a moment, but somehow I was just like, God, I don't know. There's no one that represents 80s feminine badass to me than Adrienne Barbeau. I just, between Escape from New York and Swamp Thing and The Fog, it's just like she I don't know, she's just a tough, she's tough, she's sexy, but she's tough and she's a badass. And I just didn't think there was anyone that could really do it better. And I still felt that like she had it, she still had it. Obviously this was 25 years after Swamp Thing and stuff like that. But I felt like no, the attitude is still there. I think she can do it, and she did. She did great. So, or like 20 years after Swamp Thing, I should say. Yeah. So anyway, so yeah, no, she's wonderful and she's the best. She rules.
Awesome. And obviously a love for practical special effects. What were some of the most influential kind of practical effects movies that influenced you in your early career, and maybe even for that film?
Well, I still love practical effects always. I've learned to embrace some digital stuff. I mean, I'll always prefer a practical effect over a digital, effect. It's just I don't know. It's just something magical there, and it's such an art form that's kind of lost. But I think the biggest influence on most movies I make is Evil Dead 2. And certainly that was a massive influence on the Convent. But I was really into all sorts of splat stick at that point, and still am. Any of the Peter Jackson, whether it be Bad Taste or Dead Alive or Meet the Feebles. Also Frank Henenlotter, certainly loved Frankenhooker, and just that kind of irreverent splattery horror comedy was kind of my thing. Their Reanimator, of course, being another one. But if we talk pure special effects, what is my favorite? It's hard to beat Rick Baker, American Werewolf. It's hard to beat Rob Bottin on The Thing, or any 80s Rob Bottin. RoboCop as well. It's just and Howling. They were doing some dope shit back then. So I'm happy that the artistry is still alive. I was worried CG would completely kind of take it, but I as I hear, not right now because of After the Strikes, but I've heard many times that like, no, we're in kind of a weird renaissance for practical makeup effects. It's still very much alive, which is great. So
Yeah, it's definitely coming back with everything. The reverence for all things 80s and horror now, I think, has really
absolutely.
brought it back on the indie scene, especially, which I
I
love.
don't know if you've seen the new True Detective, but there's even like kind of an homage to The Thing and that, which is great.
Oh, really?
So
The one with the
yeah,
Jodie Foster? The
yeah, yeah,
new-
yeah.
Oh, okay.
A very cool puppet in there that's kind of like, oh, that's very thing like.
Awesome.
So
So
yeah,
a big thing that happened for a number of years in kind of the early to mid 2000s was the After Dark Horror Fest, and I believe they called it 8 films to die for every year. They would put out like and I remember I saw a number of these movies. They would come out for like a couple of weeks, and they'd have like a pretty big release, and even
right.
even where I was in South Carolina, which was middle of nowhere, I was able to see most of these films. And I thought you did one of the best ones of that festival, The Grave Dancers. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved with that and how you got in with this festival.
Well, shot in North Carolina, so right by you
Oh,
over there.
where
But
at?
Greensboro, North
Oh
Carolina,
yeah, I know Greensboro.
and went. Salem, yeah. So and High Point, I think were the anyway. But yeah, Grave Dancers, that was my third movie. And again, you always have I'm about to do a commentary in the near future because there's also a new 4K of Grave Dancers
Oh,
coming, also
nice.
from Synapse, which is great. And I think we were just working on that yesterday, actually.
Are
And
they still
I think
keeping that the After Dark kind of branding, or is it just the Grave Dancers?
no, it'll just be Grave Dancers at this point. I think the After Dark thing is kind of done with for the most part. But long story short, once again, you have all the hopes after the convent doesn't light the world on fire. Like I'm gonna get up there and I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna make a movie that'll hopefully this is gonna be the one, as Ed Wood would say, the one they'll remember me for. And so with all best intentions, we tried to make Grave Dancers kind of at a studio level, attempting to make it at like $15 million, which was kind of like the going rate for studio films back then. But through just I feel the movie's cursed. Everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong. We lost the funding. It was supposed to come out through Fox or whatever, and suddenly that $15 million movie became more like a $1.5 million movie. But was still with the same ambition and still like, no, we're gonna do it. And it just everything went wrong. We had a tornado, we had a snowstorm, we had a fire, we had a hepatitis outbreak.
Oh, wow.
It was just a really, really rough go. But
Now,
the,
did
the
you
movie
shoot
finished.
that on film or digital?
Yes, that was also on film. And I think part of the reason the movie's fresh and why I'm kind of like remembering the kind of cursed aspect is that I have a good friend, Mike Gingold, who used to be the managing editor for Fangoria, and he's been doing a lot of the extras for Synapse, and he does like a locations tour of some of the different movies, and he just did a locations tour for Grave Dancers. And as he was in the cemetery doing it, his car broke down in the middle of the cemetery, and it just brought me back. I'm like, yeah, that fucking movie, that movie where everything fucking goes wrong with it. I don't know. It's just like even 20 years later, it's still fucking cursed. So I don't know. It's a strange one. There's a lot that I like about it. There's a lot I'm not happy with. But yeah, it was really, really a tricky one to get, to push uphill. And then finally, I think that one premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival, and again, no one really wanted it, and the Eight Films to Die For, was kind of a novel thing of like, hey, here's this thing, we have $16 million in prints and advertising, and we're going to really nationally promote these movies and get them in theaters, and sure enough, they did, and I think it was a cool thing. I think the only bummer was that they almost needed a little more confidence in themselves because it was only for a weekend, and it actually did well. And even though and maybe you saw it in the theater, maybe you didn't, but Grave Dancers only played like maybe three times, in the theater or something like that, or like three showings through
I
the
remember
course of the
that
weekend.
now that you mentioned it, and they used to sell
Yeah.
like there would be like a ticket where you could see them all that was cheaper, but it was kind of crazy to fit it in over like 2 or 3 days.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And they didn't carry it over into the next weekend or anything like that. It actually did. It made a dent in the box office. I think it was number 5 or something like that. Just the After Dark Horror Fest. And I'm very happy that it was that first year because I think as years went on, there was kind of less money behind it and pushing it, and just wasn't quite the same. So yeah. So I had a good experience with that, and happy. And I think it was a neat idea, and it was the bottom line. It got my movie in theaters across the nation, not exactly the way one hopes for, but it happened. So it's kind of like, hey, man, that's better than not. So I'm very thankful that we had that, and that was a good experience, and a way a lot of people got to see it. And even after that, at the time when DVDs were a thing, I remember Best Buy had, specials on the stuff. They were like $8 for the discs, and you could get
Yeah, those
a whole
DVDs
bunch of them.
did really well, I feel like, on DVD.
Yeah, totally. I wish some of the movies were better. I mean, imagine if all those movies were great. I think that would have been a really cool thing. But and especially as years went by and
But yours
quality could
definitely
get
stands out because, like, of all the ones, and I watched most of them over the period of like 3 years where it was really big.
right,
The only other one I can ever really remember is Dark Ride, which was a
right, Dark Knight, sure.
remake. What it was a remake of
Well, it's
it was
kind
a
of like the
Toby
Funhouse. I
Hooper.
don't,
Funhouse.
yeah,
It's
the
it's a
Funhouse,
Funhouse.
loose
yeah.
remake of Funhouse, but with the dude from the Big Green and
Sandlot, yeah. Kellen's guy,
Sure,
Renna,
yeah, totally. Yeah,
Patrick
Patrick
Renna is that his
Renner.
name? Yeah,
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 yeah.
Patrick Renner.
The Great Hambino.
yeah. That was a decent one too. That's probably the only one I vividly remember seeing before.
Yeah.
There was one called The Abandoned, which was not bad. That was pretty cool. So
Yeah,
anyway,
I
but
remember
no,
watching that.
and some of the
But
other
that
years,
was your first like wide theatrical release, right?
yeah, pretty much, yeah. Let me think here. Because yeah, I mean, I've been lucky that most of my stuff has gotten like some theatrical thing, but usually it's very small. Usually it's like, hey, we're in 12 theaters. So I think Killers was in like played some midnight screenings, and I think maybe Convent did too. But for the most part, yeah, certainly nothing like you feeling like, no, it's nationwide. Like you can see it in New York, you can see it in, Austin, you can see it in, it just was everywhere. So that was cool, and honestly, in some ways, I've never had anything pushed quite as hard as that either, even though you're sharing it with 7 other movies, but that certainly was, definitely a big push.
Yeah, did that help open some more doors for you as a filmmaker? Get some more
Not at
meetings
all.
or anything?
Not
Not at all.
not that helped close doors. Unfortunately, that helped. Like, nope, he still didn't pull it off. Yeah, no, it was a long time. I didn't work for, I think, and as a director, I think for 6 years, and it was Big Ass Spider was the next thing that I got to do. And by that point, it was a script I got called Mega Spider, and it was just supposed to be a super low budget sci-fi channel movie. But I don't know, I got just crazy, and it was a couple things. Epic Pictures was a new company, and they're like, no, we don't want to be the Asylum, we want to do better. And I like that, I like when, like, because I've always been, like, I like B horror, I feel it should be better too, a movie called Sharktopus, should be kind of awesome, really, or could be awesome. And so I guess that was kind of my attempt to, like, if I ran the Sci-Fi Channel, this is how I would make these type of movies. And so yeah, and again, a movie that really kind of came out of nowhere, Mega Spider, for me, just a script I got in my inbox, and I was like, oh man, it's come to this, has it? It's funny how, sometimes you change your attitude and you kind of like are like, well, maybe I can make something out of this. And at the end of the day, this movie that I was started off kind of like, I'm going to be embarrassed about, making this, now is one of my favorite things I've worked on, and I think worked out, thankfully. The opposite of Grave Dancers. Some movies have a weird blessing and a weird, energy that kind of like, everything goes right instead of wrong. And so, yeah, again, it's weird expectation and the way it happens. I expected Grave Dancers to be something, that was going to really launch me, and I expected Big Ass Spider to be something I was embarrassed about, and both did not come to pass. Both were completely different experiences than what I set out when I started. So anyway,
I think
And
Big Ass Spider is top tier sci-fi original.
thank you.
I
Yeah.
honestly do. It's written very well for a sci-fi. Like, usually sci-fi is a little too cheesy for me, but I don't know if
Right.
it's just the duo of the security guard and the exterminator. Like, their banter back and forth is great. Like, it was just written very well. I was impressed.
It just we just felt like if we just give a little more of a shit than I think a lot of these movies do, I felt we could do a little better, both in effects and both in in performances and stuff, and try to make a genuinely fun movie instead of this thing that people try to do, which, I love bad movies, I really love bad movies, but I don't like, and I don't want to offend any, friends or whatever that make movies, but I don't like when you're trying to make a bad movie, and I think the Asylum kind of falls into that sometimes. And some of the other companies do these kind of like, oh, it's ironically bad because it's over the top. And it's like, that's not
Yeah.
fun to me, at least. I think it's fun when you genuinely like the characters and you relate to the characters. They're just in a ridiculous situation. I think that's more fun, so we kind of approached it that way. And once again, waited for like, okay, that got into South by Southwest, and I was like, yes, now Hollywood is gonna come calling. And the phone rang, and it was the Sci-Fi Channel saying, hey, you did a big spider movie. Can you make another one? Because we want to make stuff like that too. But more like Sharknado. And thus was born
So it's kind of like
Lavalantula.
getting socks for Christmas, like
Yeah,
sci-fi calling
right.
you instead of Hollywood.
What were
Look,
the budgets though around that time for a sci-fi? I remember it used to be like 1 million, 2 million, but then
that
I'm sure
sounds that's
NATO
that,
probably.
that sounds about right. I don't think it was much more than 1 million. The God's honest truth, I would never know the exact number because they don't tell me. But just from what I can kind of gauge, I would think it was around $1 million. So which was much more than Big Ass Spider. It was like double than what we had for Big Ass Spider. But that was just that was a lesson because Big Ass Spider was very much an independent film, and we got to do whatever we wanted, while Lavalantula was very much a Sci-Fi Channel film, and it was very much we were making it for them, and that's fine. It was just a little bit of a different. One is very much a TV movie, and one's an independent film, and so they kind of have a little bit of a different flavor because one is you're kind of working for part of a bigger team that wants to make the next Sharknado type thing. So, and I'm fighting my own internal battle, going like, yeah, but I don't want to make Sharknado, so I'm not gonna do that. So anyway,
Fair.
so
Now, one final question for me before I hand off to Kellen. So obviously, it seems to me like you must have a love of horror anthologies. You've been a part of Tales of Halloween, more recently Satanic Hispanics, which, as a old school fan of like the old Amicus anthologies and Body Bags and Creep Show, all the classics, I have to say, I think Satanic Hispanics is my favorite horror anthology since Body Bags. It's
all right. Well, thank
top
you.
tier,
All
and I
right.
love how you had it's not just all like Mexican lore. It's
Right.
multicultural Hispanic lore with like the Aztec god type thing, all
Yeah.
the stuff. Uh, what are some of your more horror anthology influences as a filmmaker?
Well, I mean, I think like all of us, and certainly anyone of my generation that grew up with Creepshow, I don't think there's anything better than that. I think the first Creepshow is just all-time classic. And then I think we were also a lucky generation that grew up with Tales from the Crypt on HBO, and I think that certainly, I don't know, there's something special about it's a couple things. Short form horror I think is great because I think you can be a little more experimental, and I think you can try kind of weirder ideas. You can't make a feature about Stacy Keach and his like carnivorous hair, from space, but you can certainly do that, in a short. And I think Mortuary Collection has a bunch of kind of really interesting kind of small ideas that are, work great as shorts, that maybe it might not do it so much as a feature. Plus, I think there's something just and there's different types of anthology. Even though my favorite, and two of my favorites, Creepshow and Trick or Treat, there's the kind of more singular filmmaker anthology, which I tend to think are a little better, to be honest with you. But there is a delight and fun, and more fun for me to make in the kind of sampler pack type anthology, which is different filmmakers kind of bringing their voices, and you kind of get a different thing. No matter what, Creepshow, yes, they're different genres, but it is King Romero. You're kind of feeling that throughout. With the kind of more sampler pack type thing, I can't predict what Gigi is going to bring to it or emulate that. It's definitely a different voice, and it's a different artist in there. They're certainly easier to make because you're only responsible for, you know, the segments that you're producing or making, you know, and Satanic Hispanics, it was my segment and the Hammer of Zanzibar we made together. And the other ones, you know, we knew what they were. We talked with the filmmakers and, you know, we were certainly supportive and, you know, helped however we could, but it was very much like kind of like, hey, well, you know, bring it to us when it's done. So you know, so there is a lot of appealing things about it. I also, you know, I'm under the theory that you can make, let's say you make I don't know, I'm just going to pick a random number. Let's say you make four horror shorts for $50,000 each. Or you can make one horror movie for $200,000. I don't know why it is, but I have found both in Tales of Halloween and Satanic Hispanics that you somehow end up making a bigger movie when it's an anthology, because you have each filmmaker pulling favors, and you know it's a smaller ask to get this actor or do this for a couple days. So you know you could try to like have the same amount of days for in a $200,000 movie, but somehow, you know, I don't know, we have like 5 or 6 different monsters in Satanic Hispanics. I don't think we would have been able to do that if we were like, oh, we're just making one movie, that we'd have 5 or 6 different, you know, full creatures in there. But because it's each filmmaker going to their makeup artist, pulling a favor that, you know, hey, I don't have that much money, but we can do this. I think you just get more creativity and you get more artistry and you just get more bang for your buck. And bottom line, I think they're fun. I still think it all is akin to we're gathered around the fire and we get to tell different little ghost stories. And I think that's just kind of a fun thing if they're good. You know, obviously a bad anthology is never, no one wins, but if an anthology hopefully can be even 75% effective, that's great, you know. So
Awesome.
So in your career, you've wore several different hats: writer, actor, producer, director. Do you ever find it hard to take off other hats? Like say you're in a role as an actor, do you ever find it hard to step back and not be like, well, if I was directing, I would have done it this way?
well, it's I guess I approach it like I certainly, there's certain things I wouldn't mix. It's like pharmaceuticals. You just don't mix certain things. So I wouldn't direct an act because, you know, A, there are much better actors than me and I'd rather work with them than me. You know, so that would be too confusing for me and I just wouldn't be focused on it. It depends, you know, yeah, I try not to be too judgmental or too like, you know, think too hard about, you know, God, I would do this if I was directing. You know, I try to just focus on, hey, for whatever reason they asked me to be in this, so I'm gonna try to make them not regret that decision, and I'm gonna try to just commit to it as much as I possibly can, and try to, you know, do the best job I can. And then, you know, I'm lucky enough to be in things like Malignant and stuff, and where I you know get the pleasure to watch James Wan work, and I'm not going to be like, James, you know, really, no close up, really, you know, I'm not gonna do that. So that's good. And yeah, I don't know. My job of choice is direct. If it was all up to me, I would just prefer to be a director. I do the other things so that it allows me to direct. I mean, the acting is just more a goof that, you know, like, hey, you want to be in this? Sure. You know, why not? I think it's fun. But the other stuff, you know, if I produce, you know, I produce Satanic Hispanics, you know, not only, but you know, and Tales of Halloween, but one of the perks is, hey, I get to do something unbridled or unhinged and unrestricted. I get to be myself and do something. If I go through all these hoops to make all this other stuff, I'll allow myself a stage where I can actually kind of do something that no one else will let me do. So that's the joy of the producing. And the writing, you know, again, is just you just need something to direct, so you end up writing in there. So you know, so I don't know. I guess, you know, and I say I don't like to do all of them, but I guess Satanic Hispanics, I'm a producer, writer, editor, director on that. So I don't that worked. I mean, that didn't conflict me too much. So yeah, I guess I'm okay wearing all the hats, just as long as acting is kind of the one that's its own separate thing that I don't even consider a real job, and kind of miraculous that anyone's ever hired me for anything on that. So we'll see.
So I found that film
Oh.
very interesting.
Yeah,
from the sense. I
yeah.
actually enjoyed it. There was not a moment where I drifted off. A lot of times in movies, you that are B movies or lower budget films, sometimes you drift off. But this one kept my attention, and part of the reason was you're blending two different genres, the kind of like the suspense
Right.
heist genre and serial killer genre in the same thing, which kind of was a unique twist in my mind, especially having who just creeps me out in general. He's such an incredibly intelligent person, but so intense. Like I feel like if I met him in person, I would probably just pee my pants. But he does that unsettling killer thing so well. Was there a challenge in trying to direct a movie that has almost two plots intertwined and keeping it balanced between suspense and an outright horror film?
Oh boy, was there a challenge? Okay. So I've never spoken about this movie ever. This will be the first time I've ever spoken about this movie, and it's only because you asked me. Because the powers that be, I won't say who, have threatened to sue me should I bring it up and talk about it. So you asked a question. I am answering the question about it. I am not bringing it up of my own accord. I hate that fucking movie. I'm so goddamn embarrassed by that fucking movie. That movie is an atrocity. But not by all I'll say, and I won't go into too much detail. It's the lowest budget thing I've ever done, but I thought it was going to be fun because I liked the idea of making a heist movie and a slasher movie. That was what was exciting about it. But I'm not going to say who, but I'll just say the powers that be, the ones that were in charge of things, just decided on my lowest budget movie that I was doing as a favor to them that they were just going to recut the movie however they wanted, and took out all the gore, took out all the violence, fucked up every kill in the movie, and just tried to get it back to their kind of crappy script that that I shouldn't call it a crappy script. That's mean. That'd be, I went too far there. Get it back to the script that the one of the powers that be had kind of written. And so yeah, just that was just one that honestly you feel kind of powerless because you're trying everything to kind of make this as cool as it can be, as interesting as it can be, having fun with a slasher film, really having a good time. And we had a good time shooting it. But the movie just got taken away from me and recut, and that's rarely ever happened to me. And it's just really weird that they would do that to me, because it's just like, hey, we could get this into festivals. We could actually kind of make this a cool cult movie if we work together. I don't know why you would like just kind of cut me out of the process. And it now it doesn't currently, but it used to have a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes, which I think is about accurate because I I think it's absolutely awful. But anyway, but I think now it got a good review, so now it's a 20 on it. So so it's a difficult one for me because I've never seen it. To be honest with you, I watched 20 minutes of it and was so angry that I had to turn it off because they put on their own terrible effects. I was doing this very John Carpenter-y type of synth score, because when you're dealing with a low budget, that's what they did. They completely took all that out and replaced it with kind of like a pseudo like Michael Bay type score. And oh my god, yeah,
I can get that sense.
Yeah, I got 20 minutes into it and was just furious, and I turned it off. I mean, I know that they cut down all the gore and all the blood and all the kills and all that stuff, but there's just it hasn't happened to me too much, but it certainly happened on that one. When you watch a movie and you just don't recognize it, there's just so many decisions that I wouldn't have made, that I felt like I'm really angry that my name is on this as a director, because I was there, I said action, I made a version that existed, and it's a very low budget film, and I don't think it was going to be a masterpiece under any circumstances, but when I make a movie, I really try. I mean, we're getting up at 5 in the morning. It might as well fucking give it our all, and I would put in my own money to get steady cams and an extra camera just to make it a little more dynamic. And it's just crazy when so at the end, great, thank you, bye, chop 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 chop, fuck you, chop chop chop, we don't really need you involved, and we kind of rescored it, and here's this. And then you see it and you're just like, what the fuck is that? And I feel really bad because I loved him. He was great, and he really committed to it, and he really he was covered in blood the entire movie, and there's a lot of fun ideas in there that I don't think really made it to the light of day. And so unfortunately, it is this mark of shame I wear is that movie. But again, no one ever asks about it, and it's in the contract that I'm not allowed to speak about it. So anyway, and they have threatened to sue me. So now look, I don't know why someone would actually sue me because I spoke about something on a podcast that I made like 7 years ago, 8 years ago, that has thankfully sank to the bottom of the ocean and no one can see it. But yeah, you never know.
I think
yeah,
statute of limitations is like 7 years, right?
I don't know. People could just want to try to be like, oh, I'm going to sue you anyway. I don't know.
That's the American
I,
way, it seems.
Well, yeah, and hearing
I
you describe your vision, it definitely sounds like they took some of the life out of it. You can
they took a
definitely
lot of the
see
life out.
you can definitely see
Yeah.
watching it. And it's surprising they would cut out some of the kills or gore, because that whole torture porn genre
Yeah.
of horror was
Yeah.
huge 7 years ago with the Saw films and things like that. So you would think that they would leave
They
that in.
kept
That's
saying that
surprising.
They
kept
released the
saying
Mendez
that
cut. Release the Mendez
yeah,
cut.
right.
you
I know.
cowards.
I don't think that'll ever happen, but I mean, the Mendez code would be very short, but it'd be better. I would definitely say that. But yeah, no, I mean, it's extra insulting because like I thought I was doing it like, like, hey, okay, it's a small movie, it's these small producers, I knew them. I thought, like, okay, we'll do this together, it'll be fun. And I'm an editor and I'm a filmmaker. It's just weird to like, like, oh great, here, thanks, I'll take that, and we don't really give a fuck what you want. Because when they hired me, it was like, oh, your foreign value is good, and this would help us. And then to take it away and just treat me like, well, we're the producers, we paid for it, so it's our thing. And it's like, yeah, it is your thing, and yes, we're doing this together, but I did bring a lot to this, and I'm trying to do something, and I want to make something that I'm not embarrassed about. And currently that one, just nobody wins. It's like that movie went nowhere. That it had a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes. It's not something that you're not going to get a 4K of it, come 10 years from now. I don't back it. It's nowhere to be found. And it's like, why? What did that benefit anybody? Because you have to get in a pissing contest of, this is my movie and this is how it's gonna be cut. It's just really crazy to me. But unfortunately, that's how it went. I'm not saying who it was. I'm not saying if it was distributors, producers, executive producers, financiers. I'm not saying who it was, but there were people that just did not want to let me make the movie. So so it's like, all right.
Well, sorry to touch on a
Hey,
sore
you weren't
subject, but
expecting that answer.
I'll bring us back around with my last question. So, like we've said, Jay said earlier, and then I said, you've done so many different things in cinema. Is there a moment in your career where you were just like, that was amazing, that's why we do all this, or a moment that just sticks out as like a genuine joy in your entire process between any of the roles that you've had?
So many. I mean, this is so lucky that we get to do this, but God, I don't know. It's always in small ways. Any time I even just see something airing on television, that's amazing to me. Thankfully I've been around a minute. Going back to Masters of Horror and being able to do that, being able to go to the Masters of Horror dinners now, not that they have them that much anymore, and still being able to go like, hey, I get to meet these people and know these people. Yeah, I think it's more so the people that it's brought in my life and the people I've gotten to meet and the places I've gotten to go. And that's the part that amazes me, because again, Killers was a student movie that was like $100,000 or something like that, and it's just crazy that actually built a bit of a career. Not an amazing career, not one that like I'm gonna go to my swimming pool after this, and but I get to make movies. I get to make weird independent genre films, and thankfully it seems like it's still going. So yeah, I feel very lucky and very fortunate about that. And yeah, no, there's lots of great moments. Anytime you're on stage introducing it at a festival, it's wonderful. Anytime people like it, anytime I get a positive tweet, all of these things are what make it worthwhile. I mean, I've always said it's like, these movies don't make a ton of money for me, so it's not like I do it for the wealth, but I do it because people seem to enjoy them, and it seems to be working. People seem to like them over the years in different ways. Some people may like Don't Kill Him, some people may like Big Ass Spider, some people may love Killers or The Convent or whatever. It just over the years, it's just you feel like, hey, I'm kind of connecting with some people, and that's the most awesome thing I could ask for, and all I really want to do is just to continue to do that, and maybe on a bigger scale. That would be awesome. So yeah, I feel very blessed, and very lucky to be doing it for this long. So
And you never really know who you're impacting, with your
right.
films. Like even something that sounds as silly when you say as Big Ass Spider, but there could be somebody, down on their luck. They turn that on, they have a laugh, they turn things around. So you just don't know.
Yeah,
So
totally. Absolutely.
we'll wrap things up. I have one Big Ass Spider question,
Mhm.
and then we'll close up. Was there ever a plan for Big Ass Cockroach? Was there any, like, anybody pushing that? Because that's the post credit scene.
100%. And I love these people. They're my friends. But I just, for whatever reason, Epic Pictures felt it was and I guess it was fair enough. They didn't want to pay for it themselves. They were like, hey, we need a partner. We need, Sci-Fi Channel, which I wish they would have. I think what they really wanted was someone like Sci-Fi Channel to pony up and go like, hey, we'll pay for it. And I don't think they wanted to pay for it, type thing. And so that's the only reason it didn't end up happening. And I tried many times because I think we wanted to do a series of them. We wanted to do Big Ass Scorpion, and we wanted to do Big Ass Spider 2 Rise of the Mexicans. But but again, that they didn't. And then for a time, I tried to see if I could maybe spin it as a TV show, like Big Ass Pest Control. Like who are you going to call when there's a Sharktopus or a Sharknado on the loose? Called the essentially the Ghostbusters of this kind of thing. But yeah, no one seemed to want to bite. There was always people asking for it, and yeah, it's ironic. I swear I want to make a sequel to everything except for Last Heist. Everything I've ever made, I've always wanted to make a sequel to. And Last Heist, I'd love to actually do again. I'd love a do-over of that. Could I get the rights and actually kind of make that again? Because I think there's a cool movie in there. That's just unfortunately not it. Anyway, so I always want a chance to get a sequel, and it's kind of funny, just the only one that's ever gotten a sequel is Lavalantula, which is the TV movie, which I don't really consider mine. I consider that very much something that we did together, and they didn't want me back for the sequel, so it's not even, not even involved with the sequel. So it is kind of funny, like, yeah, that's the only one that got a sequel, because I wanted a Satanic Hispanics too. I don't think we're getting one, so
No, we should.
yeah.
Hashtag Satanic Hispanics too.
We'll
Yeah.
see, and maybe it might live on in a different way. I can't say, but maybe it'll have a different form
A
that
comic
might
book
live.
series would be awesome.
That
I
would
don't
be
know if
cool
that's
too.
what
No,
you're
that
into,
that would
but
that would be that would
fun.
totally be down with that. But
Because that's
yeah,
what
no, and
Creepshow's done that now. They have Creepshow comics, so
oh, that's
like newer
cool.
ones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll be I don't know if I'm allowed to say it. We'll be on a streamer very soon. I believe next month, I think. So unless something freakish happens there and it becomes a big thing there, yeah, I wouldn't hold my breath on a Satanic Hispanics too. But yeah, it's just always that way. I would have loved to make a Tales of Halloween too. Would have loved to make a Convent too, a Grave Dancers too. Several sequels to Big Ass Spider, but no
I
one, no
still
one wants.
think there's a world where there could be a convent too, for sure, especially if this new Blu-ray sells well.
Yeah, that would be fun. Yeah, that one. And again, the more time goes on, the trickier it gets. So I don't know. I did see a sequel to oh, I shouldn't say this. I saw a test screening to an awesome movie that we're all going to become very excited about come September. And that was a movie that is a sequel from 36 years ago, and it worked. It was awesome, and it was great to see. So anyway, won't say what it is.
Nice.
Sorry.
Oh, you can tell us off air.
All right, sure.
All right. All right. I'm gonna close up shop, but real quick, Ray Wise, is he a sweetheart? Because I
Ray's
picture
awesome.
him as
Ray's
a
the
sweetheart.
best. Yes.
Okay.
Ray's awesome. Yes,
I knew it.
absolutely.
I knew
we'd
it.
love to work. Yeah.
All right. So that's going to be it for this episode. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, to wherever you're listening to this podcast. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and join our Facebook group. Mike, thank you again for joining us. You want to take a second, tell everybody where they can find your films, anything else you want to mention?
Well, you can find me on social media on Instagram. It's at Madman Mendez. Same on X. Yeah, you can find my stuff right now. The newest stuff, both Satanic Hispanics and the Convent 4K have just come out on Blu-ray. You can find Satanic Hispanics on iTunes or wherever you purchase film, and it'll be on one of the major streamers that I bet we all have. I believe in March. And then other than that, you can find most of my stuff on Amazon, except and Tubi and things of that nature, except for Grave Dancers, which is sadly out of print, but will be coming back next year in a new 4K. So yeah.
Awesome. We're looking forward to that. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. I'm Jay with Kellen, Mike, and TJ. And until next time,
Keep it spooky.